Birds, rodents, and deer can be very destructive in the garden. They can eat your seedlings and steal your bulbs and get to your produce before you can. There's a reason Mr. McGregor was so upset about Peter Rabbit coming to eat all of his vegetables. If you live in a rural place, that's where you're most likely to run into most trouble with these types of animals. The best solution that I've seen for rural areas, if it's possible, is to put up an 8-foot fence around your garden made out of some kind of a wire, and you can put it up with stakes. You can then run netting a few feet down into the ground, which rodents can't get through, to keep out any critters from getting in. And then you can then plant beneficial flowers that are deer and insect resistant, like cosmos and marigolds, all around the wire fencing that will attract pollinators but resist the bad bugs and then add to the aesthetic of your space. So I know that's a lot, but really if you really do have a big problem with these kinds of critters, that would take care of the problem. And it's a really good solution that I've seen people use. If a fence isn't possible, there are various products that involve netting, traps, or decoys, such as fake snakes or bird of prey that might be of some help. Getting a cat can help with if you've got like a gopher problem and birds that are a nuisance just because the cat scares the birds away. They usually can't catch them, but I've seen people plant tulip bulbs under netting so that rodents can't steal them. So there are lots of creative things that you can do to keep off whatever it is that's tormenting your garden. Another thing you can do, especially for deer, is just plant plants that deer don't like to eat. So a few that might be helpful to know are, here's a list here: coneflower, foxglove, rudbeckia, poppies, peonies, yarrow, marigold. There are more, but that's just a place that you can start. Be warned that they love tulips, especially when tulips are in bloom. There's a lot of tragic stories of your beautiful tulips finally coming up, and then deer will just eat the head right off of them. Lettuces and young vegetables are a favorite of rabbits and similar type animals. And I know that gophers can wreak havoc on potato type crops because you don't even realize it, but they're just under the ground going wild on your sweet potatoes or potatoes. Remember that netting and fencing is going to be your best friend in fighting off critters. For bird control, there are all kinds of tricks. What works for you is going to depend on the type of birds you're dealing with and the crop you're protecting. So remember scarecrows? That's an old method of making it look like the farmer's in the field so the birds won't come around. I've never verified how effective a scarecrow actually is, but some people will follow that kind of idea and hang a dried animal skin like in a fruit tree, like a raccoon skin or something, to keep birds away, or use a fake predatory decoy of some kind, like an owl is a really common one. But netting, again, that's hung like a canopy over trees is commonly used and probably the most effective if you've got a serious bird problem. Other people will use wind chimes or other noise makers that can scare birds and keep them out. So the key is to keep experimenting and making note of what works best for you and your yard. But as a starting point, thinking about netting, thinking about decoys, those are probably going to be your most effective tools in dealing with birds and rodents and deer.